Good morning. It's time to rise and shine, travelers, because it's time for the According to Willie B podcast, straight from the highly caffeinated studio. This is According to Willie B, and I am your host for the next, let's call it a half hour. Let's see if I get off on a rabbit trail and it turns into 22, 24 minutes, or if we go into 30 plus minutes. I never know. I'm going to tell you, I have learned from just doing this from the cuff. I never know how long it's going to be. Sometimes I think my subject matter might not cover 30 minutes. And then the next thing I know, I look up and I'm like, oh, it's over. And I still have more to say. Imagine that. But remember, this is kind of a part two of the three series where we're going to talk about traveling. This would be the mid-level. Last week we talked about the budget travel, where we didn't leave the state. We just went within a couple hour radius of your hometown. This was for folks that have never really traveled. And I did get some email, and people were saying, I find it hard to believe that nobody's traveled outside their hometown. And I have to tell you that it's true. I have people that I am good friends with, and they just don't care anything about leaving their hometown, and that's okay. But for those that decide that they want to venture out, then it's time to start looking at how you would, because like we talked about, travel can be daunting. And you would think with the internet, we have more information at our fingertips, it would make it easier. When in all actuality, when you think about it, and I did after last week's show, it actually makes it more daunting. Because think about it this way. Think of it in terms of ice cream, if you will. If you went into an ice cream shop and all they had was vanilla, that's an easy decision. You're getting ice cream. You're getting vanilla. If they had vanilla, chocolate, and strawberry, you have your choice between those three. As you get more complex into more flavors, and you have 52, 62, 129 flavors in one ice cream shop, and they do exist, and then you throw some gelato decisions in on top of that, it can become quite the complex decision to make. And that's, if you think about it in the terms of travel, it can be the same way, because now you have more decisions to make, more choices, more offerings, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You see where I'm going with this. Before we dive off into the mid-level trip, we have to make the truth versus myth statement. And then at the end, I'll tell you whether it's truth or a myth. This was actually brought to me by one of my listeners, and I almost disagreed immediately. But then when I thought about it, I'm like, wait a minute, she's right. It hasn't made a difference in probably the last year. And here's the statement. Does it matter what day of the week you book a flight? Is one day of the week cheaper to book a flight than the other? Some people find that to be a truth. Some people find that to be a myth. So I'll let you decide, and then we'll talk about it at the end of the show. So be thinking about that. So let's say that this week's mid-level, see, I don't always wait till the end of the show to have a word salad. I can have them right in the beginning and get it out of the way. So this mid-level trip, if you will, we're going to say we have a budget anywhere from $500 to $1,000. And when you talk about $500 to $1,000, if you're traveling by yourself, that's a pretty decent little chunk of change. If you're a couple, that's still can put together a pretty good little trip. If you're talking about a family of four, we may be stuck in the same state. But it all depends on the one thing I'm about to tell you. And remember this, how far you go is equivalent to how far you research. Now, that doesn't mean that you can research the Australia and that's how far you're going to go. That's not what I'm saying. The more time you spend in research, the further you're going to be able to go, because you're going to find discount deals. You're going to find different, you may find a flight special, if you will. You know, a lot of airlines every now and then will offer $99 each way, which by the way is $198. So two people, now we're looking at $500. If you had $1,000, there's half of your travel budget. You get a couple nights hotel, you can see where I'm going. You could quickly burn your $1,000 out. Just remember, next week we're going to talk about an upper tier trip. Not necessarily a bucket level trip, but we're going to work with a lot larger budget and we'll be able to travel more places. So on a $500 to $1,000 budget, could you do airfare? It depends. If you're by yourself or a couple, you could find some kind of deal out there on one of the travel websites. I'm not I'll be honest with you. My extensiveness into trusting some of these sites is like there's Travelocity, there's all these different. I can't even begin to name how many there are out there now that let you compare different deals from different websites. And you know what? If you've used one of these and you found it to be helpful and you've found it to be reliable of all things, I would love to hear about that. So definitely shoot me an email. I just don't feel like sticking my toes into that water. I will stick with Expedia for my hotels, as I've told you. I will, if it's a flight, I'm going to book directly with the airline. And the reason that I only book directly with the airline is because you can get off into some muddy waters if there's ever any flight cancellations or etc., changes, what have you. But if I book straight with the airline, I feel like, hey, we're on a one-to-one conversation here. And I feel like me and the airline made a deal, right? I gave you the money. You're going to take me somewhere. But when I do a third party website, it's like I gave you some money. You went and booked my flight somewhere, and you can see how much of a muddled mess that could get into. That's just always been my experience and my feelings on it. I'm more than welcome. I'm more than happy to hear any other point of view out there, if you will. If you got an argument, throw it at me. I'd be glad to hear it. So let's get back on track here because I'm going off on a rabbit trail. So $500 to $1,000. And like I said, the more people you have, if it's you by yourself, then you've got more money to spend to go. If you have you and your spouse, then, and I'm not saying leave your spouse at home because you would save money. That's not what I'm saying. So don't send me an email going, hey, I found out I could save 50% if I left my spouse at home. That's not what I'm saying, and you know it. So don't be throwing things at me. So I just feel like that somebody's out there throwing something going, he's telling me to leave you at home. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying you're going to have to divide your money by the amount of people that you have. So, $500 to $1,000, you'd be surprised at how far you can go. Now, again, this is more than likely going to be a driving trip. If you drive the distance, you're going to get a lot more bang for your buck. For instance, I'm in North Carolina, and in about, let's say 3 hours and some change, I can be up in Virginia. I can be in Maryland. I can be, there's a lot of places that I can get to for anywhere from 4 to 6 hours, and some really unique places. Now, if you live, and I'm just going to go ahead and apologize for this now. If you live in the middle of Texas, driving 6 hours, you're out of luck. You're still going to be in Texas. I can say that because I was born and raised there. And I kid you not, you can drive 12 hours and still be in the same state. So When you move to a smaller state, you have the luxury of being able to drive a few hours and go see something different. So if you're in Texas, we'll have to come up with another plan. But $500 to $1,000, you can get to about a 5 to 6 hour radius easily just by driving. Like I said, let's say you get off work on Friday at or maybe you don't want to make it a weekend trip. Maybe you're going to have 5 days of vacation, so you leave on Sunday afternoon, pack up, leave Sunday afternoon. Now you get to your hotel, you've got the entire week to explore the area where you're at, and having multiple days, you can explore multiple towns in that state. So if I was going to, so I know your next question is, and you're trying to, throttle me along here to get to the point. If I was to book a trip like this for myself and my spouse, a mid-level trip, and I'm going to go middle of the road. I got $750. I know it's not quite middle. Don't challenge my math. It's right up there with my word salads. But if I got $700 and it's me and my spouse, I'm going to jump in the car and I'm going to drive somewhere in the direction, for me, I'm going to drive somewhere in the direction of Chesapeake Bay. I love that area. I got water. I got, any kind of water sports or any kind of water activities. There's boats. There's great seafood. I mean, you see where I'm going with this. I'm already, putting the process together. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to try to search out. I don't want to waste my entire budget on a hotel room. My actual recommendation to you for this, if you've got a budget, let's say up to $1,000, it's you and your spouse, I would say try for Airbnb, because you could get multiple days, especially if it's a weekday, and have more time to spend in that town. Now, if you tried to do that with a hotel, when the average hotel being even a fairly decent motel, not even a hotel, if you find a motel, you're talking $120 after taxes, because the hotel can be $39, but then for some reason taxes have gone stupid in the last couple of years. And if the hotel's $39, we're going to add $600 in taxes. That's a little bit far exaggerated, I understand, but that's what it feels like sometimes. Because you can find a really great deal on a hotel, on a really nice hotel, and it'd be like, oh, this hotel is only $129, and then they add the taxes to it, and it's like, wait a minute, how did my $129 hotel get to be $193? And then, you also got to watch out for when you go into the bigger cities, you got to watch out for the parking fees, because they know that you're going to have a car. It's almost like the same thing applies on hotels charging exorbitant fees to park your car overnight when you're already parking yourself there. It's like the luggage fees on an airline. They already know you're going to travel. They know you're not going to go somewhere for 2, 3, 4, even days or a week and not have luggage. You got to have clothes. You got to have stuff with you. So it's almost like a racket on that part, but it is what it is, and that's part of the thing that goes with travel. You're going to have to pay luggage fees. You're going to have to pay a place to park your car. I mean, I guess they look at it as, well, you're sleeping here. You want your car to sleep here, so you might as well pay for your car too. So it's almost as if we could get the destination we want to go to come to our home, pick us up, and take us to where we want to go. No car, no luggage. We'll just borrow their clothes while we're there. And if it's a uniform to work, that's okay too. Well, maybe we'll work off some of our bill. But no, it's, in all seriousness, you want to try to really be creative when you're on a budget, and where you can still feel like you splurged, because that's what a vacation is. You're splurging. You're going to spend money, and you're going to spend money on stuff that you're going to look at a year from now sitting on a shelf or sitting in a closet, and you're going, why? Why did I purchase that? And that's why I've gotten away from souvenirs after traveling so much. It all seems to be the same thing. And so I try to make sure that the souvenirs that I bring home are the memories that I've made. And that's why I tell you it's important to take the back roads. Make the journey part of the trip because the journey is the trip. Uh, you know, but you can search and you can get very creative and maybe find a good deal on an Airbnb, maybe if it's an off season, and get multiple days. If, for instance, there's some places that have Airbnbs on the beach. Well, naturally, those are going to be more expensive. But if you know you have to drink coffee in the morning, otherwise you can't caffeinate and conquer. So why not stay in an Airbnb a street or two over? Then when you wake up, you could walk to the beach, stop by a coffee shop, get you a cup of coffee, and you saved a couple $100 on your stay, as well as you had a reason to go get some coffee. It's all about being creative. That's all I'm trying to say. That's why I made the statement a few minutes ago. How far you get is going to be in correlation to how much you research. The more you research, and you've got the internet at your fingertips. Spend some time and look up those places to stay. Look up things to do. You would be surprised in my travels of how many things that I found very extraordinarily unique that absolutely didn't cost a dime. And I made some of the best memories out of those places. Recently in Chiefland, Florida, we found the state park that had well, they didn't have the manatees yet. They were still out in the ocean eating grass, but nevertheless, that would be something that you could go do that wouldn't cost you anything. I actually, come to think of it, I think actually to get into the state park for a few hours, I think was $2 for a car. So $2. And there's you an activity for at least a half a day minimum. So if you get creative, you can find something very reasonable to do. That is, you don't have to spend $1 million to make memories in traveling. Some of the things that I have encountered in my life, in my travels, have just been absolutely more memorable than any theme park that I've ever spent money on. And if you've ever spent money on a theme park, we're not even going to go to the destination of how much that costs. But in this day and time, everything seems to cost an exorbitant amount of money. So it's making our money go less and less further. And so we have to do our due diligence to find out things that, hey, we've got this many days from work and we want to go spend 4 or 5 days, whatever it is that we have, and we want to make the most of it because that was the whole reason that we worked all year to begin with, was to come up with the money to go take this vacation to be able to get away. And so I implore you to make sure that the planning and the journey becomes as important of the vacation as the actual destination. I was telling you the trip that we got coming up here. Well, actually, it's coming up this week, and we're going to be driving an immense amount. And I'm going to have a whole lot of information to come back and tell you that I really hope will help you in the future of planning your travels. I have gotten to where I just don't care to fly as much as I used to. And I'm not scared of flying. Don't get me wrong. I haven't lost any faith in the airlines other than to get me there on time. But that's been the biggest thing. It's just, it takes so long. I got to get to the airport 3 hours early and yada, yada. Well, here's another one for you. If you really want something unique, check out the train rides, because there are still trains that go across this nation from one end to the other And if you're fortunate enough to live close enough to one of those train lines, you could actually take a train for quite a distance. And the train actually becomes your part of your stay. So that is definitely something to check out. We've been actually talking about checking that out in the near future. If you live close to a cruise port, you could actually you can take the cruise for $1,000 for a couple people if you really, and I mean really, watch your P's and Q's while you're on the boat and not make sure, don't spend it all in the casino and don't spend it all on the bar. Don't buy pictures that you can take yourself when the ship is going to charge you, an exorbitant fee to take your picture at dinner. Everybody nowadays pretty much has a cell phone, and most people know how to take selfies. I've watched you. So there's that. And it's not, like I said, it's not about the things that you buy or the things that you want to bring home. It's the memories you make are going to be your souvenir. That's what you're going to put in the closet that you're going to refer to time and time again. And, as long as your memory lasts, then that's how long you'll have those memories. It's just, for me, that's what travel is. To me, it's the escape. It's the escape from the everyday. And it doesn't mean that I don't like to sit at home and do nothing. It just means that every now and then in life, we need an escape. And that's what a vacation is. So, if you do your research, again, you could do a 6-hour radius around your home. You could find a stay that was between Airbnbs or, there are some hotels that are, what they call them, lengthy stay or week stay, extended stay. I knew there was a word for that. I just had to check out my vocabulary. But yeah, extended stay hotel. Check out one of those and see if you can make a deal with one of those, because sometimes if it's an off-season type deal, you might get lucky and score a deal where you're staying for a whole 4 or 5 days for a couple of $100. And, that leaves you more time and money to travel with, just because you'll need a couple tanks of gas and you're going to need food. But, here's the thing. You don't have to eat out every single meal, because that's where a lot of people say, well, one of the things about traveling when you're gone 4 or 5 or plus days, the food is going to get expensive. I can tell you that there was a time, and it's been a few years ago, I'm not going to go into how long, but it was a few years ago, where I went to Vegas for 5 days. Now, I don't recommend that then or now, but I can tell you how I did it on a budget was, my breakfast was like some kind of little packaged pastry and a bottle of orange juice or a cup of coffee. Lunch would go back to the room and eat a sandwich, and then eat dinner out. So you can get really creative. You don't have to eat every single meal out. But let's say you're gone 5 days and you only eat dinner out, then you're talking 5 meals. So a cup of coffee and some kind of pastry for the morning, a sandwich for the afternoon. I know it's not the most luxurious, but like I said, we're trying to get the most out of our vacation. So it's all about how you want to attain your memories and how you want to remember that trip. You can be as frugal as you need to be or want to be, or you can be as, just living it up like there's no tomorrow. So you got both sides of that coin. Next week, we are going to talk about an upper level trip where we're going to talk about where would you go if you had $2,000. $2,000 is a pretty solid budget for the average traveler, I'm going to say. For some people, that's unattainable. For some people, that's not even that won't even pay their airfare for where they're going to go. So, but we're going to talk about where you could go and what you could do for $2,000. And, every time, if you look at it on a spectrum scale of travel, from all the way from going outside your city to going across the globe, I mean, there's every budget in the world out there, and no two people's budget is the same. Two people's itinerary or thoughts or likes are ever going to be the same, and that's what makes this world great. Is everybody can be different. Now, back to our truth versus myth. So, I used to be of the school of thought that I would only book travel on Tuesday mornings before 11 a.m. I kid you not. It was like clockwork. I, however, began to notice that I could get a great deal on Tuesday morning, sure enough. But I could also log back in on Thursday night and see that the flight that I booked on Tuesday, where I thought I got a great deal, is now been reduced another $100. So when it comes to air travel, if you are going to book an airfare, the best thing you want to do is make sure you get the flights that you're comfortable with. Some people are not early morning risers. So if your spouse is not a get up at 4 a.m. and hike out to the airport, you might want to try to get a 9 a.m. flight. So, there's that. So, but that's the main thing, is find the flight to your comfort level. Do you want a bunch of stops and take a chance on your flight being delayed 4 times and you never get into your destination? I prefer nonstop. Anytime I can get nonstop, that's what I'm going to book. But it has definitely changed in the last year, where it really does not matter what day of the week you book your flight. So I'm going to call the day of the week to book your flight is a myth. It used to be a truth, but now it's a myth. So until we talk again next week, I hope each and every one of you have a great week. I appreciate each and every single one of you. And until we meet again, do not forget to caffeinate and conquer. And I will see you right here next week behind this big old mic. And until then, have a great day. Bye-bye.